You don't have to make any money, bank 1,000 pips, make $1 million, buy a Bugatti. All you got to do is find the best setup that you can that's in line with your strategies. Scalp it. As soon as you see 5, 6, 7, 8 pips, bank the money, small little gain, 2 or 3 of those over 4 or 5 days, you're going to change your mindset. You're going to feel less panicky, less like you're missing out. And then you'll wake up and go, yeah, I don't need to do that. That doesn't really achieve much. As long as you get the right firm and they actually do pay out, then why not do it? If you've got a good system, if you're really disciplined, and if you're a good trader, you're going to make money off them anyway. So it doesn't matter whether you're using their money, your own money, or your dad's money. It's going to work. When you've got determination, you decide where you want to be. I want to be there, and then you break it back down into manageable steps, and then you start, and that's where you go. Because determination and goal, combine those two together, you're invincible.
I love that. Yeah, I love that.
And James often posts it and says it, building wealth is a long-term thing. And, most people...
Wise beyond his years, isn't he? Sometimes.
Yeah, I'm bold. That's why I'm bold.
That's what it is.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah, see, Austin, this is where you're in the wrong place, You've got too much hair.
What up, boys? Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I'm sitting down with my co-host, James Bruce, and our special guest, Tim Kirk. Tim has over 15 years of trading experience. He is not a Lambo Rolex Furu boy that you see on social media. Tim is a real trader. Tim has helped hundreds of traders also through his teaching, but we're going to talk a lot about his trading style. We touch on pivot points. We talk about why he has a small watch list. I mean, we go into very minute details on his trading plan and his approach that I think a lot of you guys are going to love. So I'm not going to bore you with a long intro here. I'm going to roll right into the podcast. Just want to say thank you to Tim for coming on as a guest. Thank you to James for being my co-host. And also thank you to our sponsors who you guys are going to hear from in a minute. But if you'd like to support the show, you can do so with the links down in the description. So enjoy the podcast with Mr. Tim Kirk. What's up, traders? Austin from the future. Really quick, I want to just thank our sponsor, Top One Trader. Now, a lot of you have transitioned from CFDs to futures, but I want to suggest that you don't do one or the other, you do both. And if you're looking for a reliable CFD firm, Top One Trader is your go-to. Now, they're based in the US, but more important than that, they actually are still paying traders out. If you go to their Instagram, you'll see last month, they paid out over $100,000 to their profitable traders. So if you want to get funded with a CFD firm that is reliable and still paying traders out, and a firm that actually answers their customer support messages very quickly. And I have firsthand experience with that because I have a lot of people in our community that tell me how it's going with Top One, with any of our sponsors. And everyone is still very happy with the work coming from Top One. Just use the link here in the description to this video. I can save you a good little discount. You can help the channel here by supporting and using our affiliate link. And then you could be trading futures and CFDs at the same time, which I think is a no-brainer. So check out Top One. Thank you for being the sponsor. We appreciate Top One very much. And let's get back to the video. All right, traders, welcome back to the podcast. I've got two very special guests in the building. We've got Mr. James Bruce as the co-host and our honorary guest of over 15 years in markets, Mr. Tim Kirk. Tim, it's good to have you to the podcast.
Hi, thank you very much for having me.
And James, it's good to see you again since the wedding. Congratulations again to you and Amanda, bro.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. It's going to be good.
Yeah. Me too, because we finally are getting the Forex army back and running here. Tim has a lot of experience with the cable, with the pound dollar, some of you may call it. So we're going to talk a lot about Forex. We're going to talk a lot about Tim's experience and really how he got started in markets. I think he has a lot to share with us. But before we get into all of that, Tim, you said a few minutes ago before we started the recording that traders, or you said you can normally tell how long someone has been a trader by the size of their watch list. So let's pick on this point for a second, because I think it is very important. And I agree with you strongly. Talk to us about how your watch list has progressed. I already set you up a little bit saying you've had 15 years at least in markets. Sure. So you've been doing this for a while. So talk to us about how the watch list has changed.
Well, I think where we all start is most of us don't have a clue when we first start. So we do what we're told. We set up a chart. We get our watch list, and when you open up your platform, you've just got them all there on the right-hand side. And when I started out, I was shown strategies, and I was told, you can apply this strategy to any currency pair, it'll work. And they were probably right, but what they didn't tell me was that the brain has only an infinite amount of space and time and energy. So
Yes.
especially if you're day trading, the first 1 or 2 hours of the day that's your kind of hot zone of time. So you don't really have a lot of time to go through all 26 pairs. And that's what I was doing when I began. And I just spent my time thinking, well, okay, Aussie dollar's doing this, New Zealand dollar's doing this, but cable's doing the opposite. It should be doing the same, but it's not. So I had all this conflicting information. I also didn't have the experience to be able to analyze what was going on and be able to understand what was going on. So I decided very early on, after a few crash and burns and just getting tired, was that my main focus was always just to keep things simple. And that filters down by the watch list, by the strategy, by the amount of time I spend in front of the screen, and the amount of stuff I read and watch and listen to. Because when I started, YouTube was young. There wasn't anything near the amount of information that's out there now. I mean, okay, I Googled, FX trading, and I was sort of bombarded. And then ironically, you get a couple of phone calls from guys going, hey, come and join our course. And, didn't know where to start. So I signed up with a course in London for a weekend because it seemed okay. I knew a couple of guys had done it. And actually the course was really good. We just covered basic fundamentals, chart analysis, etc., etc. And then I went away with 2 or 3 strategies, and then I just didn't know what to do. I was just bombarded with information, and guys being guys, oh, there must be another way, or I lost on that trade, so that doesn't work. I'm going to go here, I'm going to go there. And before I've traded 1 hour charts, swing trading, 4 hour charts, daily charts, weekly charts. I've traded grids on the 30-minute. I've scalped the 1 minute chart specifically only during news, which you've got to do when you're fully tuned in. It was great fun, and I learned a lot, and things like levels and numbers and things like that, which I'm always banging on about. But ultimately, I came right back to the beginning, which was effectively trading the daily pivots.
Interesting.
And
okay.
Yeah. So
good.
Yeah.
Great answer. What were we going to say, James?
So I was going to touch on that. Tim, Tim was kind enough actually about last week. So I've been following Tim on Twitter for about 2 years now. And what struck me about Tim was that you don't really get many currency traders that are really like authentic and like kind of, been in the space for a while. Like Tim, yourself, you've been in the currency space for over 15 years. It's very, very very, very rare, actually. So that was the first thing, and that's why I was attracted to you. And then I started to see you using the pivots and everything like that. And you were kind enough last week, because I took a pound dollar. Sorry, not last week, about 2 weeks ago. I took a pound dollar long, and I ended up getting chopped around, and it ended up closing for loss. I actually took it live on our streaming platform, ASFX TV, and then I'm getting out for kind of a break-even trade, chopped around. And Tim was kind enough to give me some feedback using the daily pivots. I was buying too far from the daily pivot, right? Closer to the R1. So maybe touch on why you use the pivots, why it sticks out to you, and why you've gone back to it after trying everything.
Yeah. So a lot of people try and establish what the strategy they want to use by back testing and analyzing, doing data. And I know a lot of guys work on that. I know you guys focus on data and analytics and everything else. I've never really done back testing, if I'm completely honest. I'm just going to be completely open about that. But one of the reasons why I didn't do that was that very early on, I spent time sitting next to a trader live, a guy who was, ex hedge fund, was a coach now, had his own business. And I was watching him doing it in real time. And I was watching him trading the daily pivots. And in actual fact, if you look at all the indicators and all the information that you can plug onto your chart, you can smother it with information. Majority of indicators, they're all lagging. They're all based on information a little while ago. Okay, as far as I can see, the only leading indicator are the daily pivots. It's a mathematical calculation based on the previous session's price action. Okay, in my case, the previous day's price action. So that already gives you a map to work on. So that was one of the reasons why I really, really trust those daily pivots, because I've seen it so many times. I mean, I've been watching cable for 15 plus years, but I have obviously watched other pairs too. But it just repeats itself. It's a behavioral pattern. It reverts back to the main pivots and the S's and the R's. Okay. And then if you just put another filter over the top using numbers, they all coordinate together. Okay. And when I approach my strategy, I've always, whenever I coach any guys, I always say you've got to have more than, never have one reason to get in. You've got to have at least 3 reasons to get in. Okay. And that will usually be a high or a low of a session or a day. It'll be a pivot. It'll be a number. I don't trade off moving averages. I think I touched that on the video that I sent to you, James. It's there, and it's good for maybe giving us an idea of momentum, especially in terms of swing trading. But you've then got to put in those horizontal levels, and that's why I mean, you know, when you see something so often, happens so often. In fact, it happened today after news. We had CPI news, price bounced up, spiked up to R2, happened also to be half round number, and then we took it back down, and then where did it reverse? It reversed at round number. So
I saw off the bottom there. I've been watching them since you told me about this. I've been watching, and I actually on my stream, I was like, listen, I'm not going to take this trade, but it was literally reverse off that R2, and I saw it bounce off the daily pivot again off a round number. I think it was 1.25. So it's interesting to see. So yeah,
absolutely. And the thing is, the more times you see it, you don't need to, you don't need to worry about where am I going to place my trade. I should be doing this. The indicator's telling me this. My average daily range is that. You don't, in my opinion, you don't need all that. I just keep it really, really simple, because one of the reasons is that I'm a very naturally impatient person, and I have the focus of a gnat. Okay, so if I'm looking at something, this is why I found scalping the 1 minute charts really difficult, because you'd sit and wait for price to get to where you want to get to, and I'm sitting there, I'm going, no, let's go, And it was just, it was great when it happened, but I was losing on the way up, and then I'd make it all the way back down and some, but it was kind of exhausting. So now, and I think also because of the years of experience, I'm also at a different place in my life. I'm, in my 50s. You guys are younger than me. Everyone I seem to meet is younger than me, especially in the trading community. But as you get older, you start to worry less about what you're doing and why you're doing it, and you worry about your performance, because all you focus on is actually, if I just focus on the process and try and keep it really simple, the rest will look after itself. And I say that to the guys all the time. I'm sure you've heard it said, and I'm sure you say that to your guys in your live sessions.
100%. Hey traders, it's Austin from the future. Really quick, before we continue with the video, I just want to say something that you're probably all thinking. Trading courses are not the best way to learn how to trade. I totally agree with that. That's why we decided about a year and a half ago to unleash on the trading industry, something that most people don't normally do. We started our own in-house live trading rooms, our in-house live streaming platform. It's called ASFX TV. There's a link for a 7-day free trial down in the description to this video. It's probably flying in above my head too. We want you to come see the information that we talk about in our YouTube videos, in our courses. I want to show you that in the live market. Because again, it's one thing to just watch a video course and then say, oh, good luck, you're on your own now. It's another thing to actually bring people in, show them those strategies in a video course, and then show them how it's applied in the live market. Now, with ASFX TV, you don't have to be there live. Everything is recorded and stored for you if you're working or you're busy and you miss something. But we also have a live chat feature, so if you can be there live, you can ask questions. You can interact with our streamers. All of our streamers are vetted. All of them have proven track records. All of them have been funded, been paid out, the whole 9 yards. So you're really going to be learning from people who have more experience than you, which is, in my opinion, the most important thing when you're learning how to trade. It's that you get around people with more experience than you. So it's a 7-day free trial, then it's $10 a month. You really can't afford to pass on this. So if you are not subscribed to ASFX TV, use the link down below. Now let's get back to the video. Would the pivot points work on other markets, or is it specific to Forex, do you think, Tim?
No, they work. Yeah. I mean, it's behavioral. The markets are behavioral. They're driven, some people, certain famous people who talk about, I won't mention names maybe, but well, hey, why not? ICT, we always bang on about it. There's all those heroes and fans out there, and I get it. I'm not going to knock it. They talk about behavioral things and algorithms and things like that, but really, algorithms are, yes, part of it, but that's sometimes during the low periods of time in the markets. When you've got the crossovers of the sessions, that's behavioral, that's human behavior. So that will repeat itself. I mean, I don't trade anything other than FX, so I can't say I'm on a complete authority on other instruments, but I can bet you if you put those onto a chart, Austin, you put those on your futures charts, you might be surprised.
You know I'm gonna do it after this episode.
I know,
and
yeah.
I'm gonna send you the video. You're gonna see it on Twitter in an hour after this.
Yay, we've converted him.
Exactly. Listen, I think you would agree with me. One of the things that, especially on the internet, when you meet good people, you see is like you can learn something from everybody. It doesn't matter how old they are or whatever, whether it's what to do or what not to do. You can learn from everybody. And the guys that don't see that end up not growing. They end up eventually not, continuing to find success.
Absolutely. When we go, I mean, trading is a really, it's a really humbling experience. It's difficult, and I think a lot of people quit because they don't like the way they behave, or maybe there's something in their character which they just can't manage to control in a way, because you do have to control your emotions, and that comes 100%. From experience, but also you just got to make a decision. Am I going to do this? If I'm going to do it right, I've got to change my behavior. And that was one of the reasons why I decided to pull back from the charts, take everything off, and start again with the basics. I use accumulation distribution in my lion share strategy, which I coach, my guys and stuff. And it is useful. It's a lagging indicator, like I've said, but it gives us an idea of momentum. And momentum is good in the market. We want momentum, because momentum is volume, and that's what we need to get those moves. But really, it's just, you don't really need much else. You just need just highs and lows and price action, and, some candlestick trading as well,
Before we leave the point about your watch list too, Tim, I want to circle back to that first question, just because I'd like to harp on one aspect of it. When you slimmed down the watch list and you started to look at less assets, can you explain how it made you perform differently, made you feel differently, made you think differently? Because I think a lot of the listeners are going through that transition period themselves, where they are not sure if they should focus on less assets. Maybe they feel like they're missing moves, and they feel like they should be looking at more assets. So what did it feel like, and how does that go?
Well, the thing with trading is that it's actually the opposite. You have to behave the opposite as you do in life. With a job, you work more hours, you get more pay. You work really hard, you show your boss you're working your nuts off, and you get a promotion. With trading, you need to do less. And if you're and going back to your question about the watch list, Austin, it took the pressure off me, because rather than having to scan through 26 pairs, you're thinking to yourself, well, there's got to be an opportunity in here somewhere. And if I couldn't see it, I'm thinking, what am I doing wrong? And it's nothing to do with that. Right. Because if you just narrow your pool of choices, you then start to you start to relax, and then you're able to look at the markets in a more calmer way, because what's going on in our heads and also in our emotions completely drives how you see the market. And you can, if you're in the wrong headspace, and it happens to me a lot, if I'm in the wrong headspace, I'll just turn off the computer and I'll take the dog for a walk or something. But you have to be completely in the right headspace. And if you're thinking about less things, you're able to just relax and be calmer, and then you're able to just see the market more clearly. The pressure's off, and then you just keep the process really simple. Because I coach a lot of guys, and when I first started coaching, a lot of them would say to me, "I'm nearly there. I know my strategy, but I'm just not turning around that corner, and they have that slightly sort of lost look in their face, in their eyes. And 100%. And a lot of it comes from confidence. So that's where my coaching really sort of started to come from, which was trying to give guys more confidence. And I did that just by saying, let's do less, clean your chart, try and not bring your old stuff to my coaching sessions. I'm just going to show you, I'm going to put my glasses on your head and show you how I see the charts. And when the pressure drops, people start smiling again.
It's true. It's true.
And they start enjoying it, and then they start seeing progress, and it's like an upward cycle. And it's great to watch. And that's why I always keep it simple. You don't need to do everything. More is not more in trading, for sure.
That's really good.
Yeah, Tim, I wanted to touch, and this is, as I mentioned earlier, there's very few traders that are trading currencies for multiple years, that have many, many years of experience, right? So for someone like me that trades, 95% of my trades will be in FX. I do look at the odd, the American indexes from time to time, but not, why did you choose currencies, and why have you stuck to currencies throughout the many years of your trading?
That's probably a really simple answer, is because the first thing that I was taught was currency trading. That was the first time I was exposed to the market. In actual fact, when I was in my teens, I wanted to be a stockbroker. I wanted to be a trader in the markets. I'd seen all the films. I wanted to be that guy shouting in the pit.
Yeah.
But back then, you couldn't just Google someone and phone them up and go and do it. You needed to know someone or have an in. And
Yeah.
back then you didn't really have it. So my background is more real estate and everything else. So I used to do land and property searching for clients. A lot of those clients were investors, and I'd have traders come into my office. They just got a bonus for 350 grand and wanted to buy a property. And I met those people, and that's where I got interested in all of that. And then basically it was just a case of, I'll try FX, try the course. And my actual background through education is I'm actually a trained graphic designer. And I see a lot of, I interpret images and pictures a lot clearer than I do data and numbers, which is probably why I've avoided back testing. But so when I was exposed to looking at charts and people were showing me, high test pin bars, low test pin bars, different types of patterns, it all just fitted. I got it. So I could look at a chart and go, I know, yeah, it's gonna reverse here. I can see the reversal pattern. It already started to fit in. So
Wow.
And then I just got into that, and there was no real reason to try anything different, because I knew that if I just became good at one thing, I would be okay.
What's up, traders? Before we keep going, really quick, I want to thank TopStep for being the sponsor of this video. If you're looking to get funded in the futures world, TopStep is the #1 choice for like 35 different reasons. And instead of me listing all 35 million different reasons for you in this quick clip, I just want you to use the link in the description. Maybe it's flying in over my head. Go to their website, see how cheap their challenges are, see their FAQ so you understand their scaling plan and how you can actually get paid out with them. See it for yourself. Don't take my word for it. But everybody that we have sent from the CFD world over to the futures world, we've pushed them through TopStep and no one is complaining. So whether you're already with TopStep and you're looking to buy another challenge, or maybe you're with a different firm, maybe you're not even trading futures at all, use the link, check out TopStep, you won't be sorry. Now let's get back to the video.
Sure.
Who was your mentor? Who was guiding you when you first got into trading from real estate?
Okay. So I went on a course with a company back then called Knowledge to Action, which is now Learn to Trade, which is the infamous Greg Secker.
Yes.
I never actually met it. Well, I met him briefly once, but I was trained by a guy called Paul Bentley, who now trades his own private fund, another guy called Wakas Khan, and another guy, Jason, I can't remember his surname. And I just sat next to them and we just went through the process, and we were just learning strategies from there. Then I just went away and went off on my own. And 5-6 years ago, I think it was, I think anyone on Twitter will know Walter Vanelli. And I did some coaching sessions with him, and it's really interesting, because you said earlier, Austin, about learning from new people, and always look for information and finding people with experience. And Walter's one of those guys. His sessions were really interesting. He chain smoked through the whole thing, and he just talked to me about the market, and we just watched and sat and watched the market live. And all the other things that I'd learned back from scalping the 1-minute charts with levels, I could see that in what he was showing me, and I could see other things that I'd learned as well. And then it just sort of progressed from there, really. And it was a case of the good move with that was it helped give me confidence, and then I just went away, and I just created, just basically amalgamated all of that into what is now what I call the line share strategy, which is it's not my strategy. It's what I call it. It's just the daily pivots with some other things in there as well. So,
were there any losses or any periods of like real struggle in the process of working with these mentors that you could share?
Yeah. Well, I remember when I first started, I was within the first 3 weeks, I was 25% down. And I was like, whoa, what happened there? They said this would happen, and and then I very quickly grew up and realized that actually, Tim, people can show you it and teach you it, but you've got to be able to do it. And experience is really, really matters. You can learn a strategy and you can learn the technicalities of doing it, but you need to actually spend time on the charts. most of the time, the mistakes and the drawdowns were because of my inability to be patient. I didn't understand trade sizing correctly. I was just, I was probably a little bit arrogant, if I'm honest. I mean, look, I was in real estate and I've done sales of different jobs all through my life, so there's going to be a touch of arrogance there, right? So
100%.
yeah, so with the trading, it just, it slapped me around, put me down on a peg or two, and I thought, right, well, if I'm going to be good at this, I've got to change my approach, and here we are.
That's
16,
amazing.
17 years later. Yeah.
When
still
you
trying to work it out.
Oh, I mean, every day, of course. When you're working with new traders now, what are is the most common thing that you see that traders need more of is confidence? You've said that word a couple of times. Is that what
Yeah.
traders are lacking, or do you think it's knowledge, it's experience in a live market? What specifically should new traders be trying to get more of?
There are two things I think that the only two things you need to focus on is the process, and patience. Well, patience and discipline. Okay, that's three things, but the process. Okay, and there are some members of the Trade for Freedom who have had some coaching recently. They've been members for a while, and they've gone through a bit of a dip, and they're sort of, it's very easy to lose your way a little bit, get a bit rusty.
Yeah.
So we have a little one-to-one coaching session, and first of all, I say is, right, where's your checklist? I have a checklist. The checklist is in here because I've been doing the same checklist for 15 plus years. But you download it off the members website. It's there. So let's go back to basics, right? Let's do a checklist, and we follow the process. And a lot of the members, they trade the London Open with me because a lot of them are Europe and UK based. We have members in Australia and Hong Kong and stuff like that. But so it's the checklist, it's the process, and you treat trading like a business. You don't treat it like a hobby or something that you want to make a quick buck at. If you want to do it, you've got to treat it like a business. So you turn up every day with your head screwed on as best as you can. You do your checklist, you follow your process. And then if you're still feeling pressure or if you're feeling frustrated, the other little line I like to tell everybody is, my sole job today is to find the best setups that I can. That's all I've got to do. You don't have to make any money, bank 1,000 pips, make $1 million, buy a Bugatti. All you got to do is find the best setup that you can that's in line with your strategy. So before you've even sat down in front of the monitor, because that's where the pressure starts to build, you've already got yourself in the right headspace. It's like you walk in and go, all I've got to do is find the best setup. If there isn't one, there isn't one. But usually
that's a great way to say it.
Yeah.
I like that because it makes you think, like, what are we really trading? We're trading our time to do the job by sitting at the desk. We're not actually exchanging any goods in this trade. We're trading time. So are we really traders? No, we're pattern identifiers, setup identifiers, and we're supposed to let probabilities play out over a long period of time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in actual fact, we're risk managers as well.
Risk managers. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yeah, because
you're
putting money into the market and you've got to manage those. So what would be, because I love that you're coaching other traders and you could speak on this stuff from real experience. What are you telling guys that are struggling with overtrading? FOMO has been something you've already brought up a couple of times, and I think FOMO and overtrading go hand in hand. So how are you helping guys deal with overtrading? Because I think it's a very common issue, especially when traders are new.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think what I tell people. Actually, no, I'll tell you what I do. Someone's feeling like that, and they'll probably have sent me some trade examples, and usually when people are logging their trades and they send me their information, I can see already kind of where I can help them just by looking at those screenshots and where they're approaching the market. But So what I do then is I then go, okay, look, I'm going to walk you through how I go through the chart. So we do a screen share and I say, you see this high, you see this low, whatever it is that I'm talking about. And I say, why would you go into a trade there? I'd actually ask them and I'd get them to tell me the answer. And they go, oh, well, it's this. Well, it's not, is it? Because if you get in here, that's the better place. A little similar to the video I sent to James last week was, I understood James's reasons for getting into the trade, and it was perfectly valid, and I said that. But all I said was like, well, if I was looking at the chart at that particular moment, I would prefer to get in here. So you go through that process and say, don't waste your time with this. This is no man's land. You need to be
Yeah.
You know where your levels are. You don't know what the market's going to do, but you know what you're going to do. So if price gets here or there, you're going to do that. And it's as simple as that. And then there's no point worrying or stressing, because if price isn't where you need it to be, then there's no trade. So the pressure's off. Okay. That's the kind of the negative side of social media as well, because you flick through Twitter these days and everyone's making 1,000 pips a day. And young guys or guys with less experience are thinking, well, I should be doing that, and they're running to catch up, and it's like, no, you don't.
It's so true. So in that same bucket of issues with FOMO and overtrading, what about fear of loss? Have you had to coach anybody specifically on? That's one that I have all the time. Guys will see a trade they think they should be in. They see things coming together. In your sense, maybe there's confluences coming together to say we should be looking for longs here, but they don't act. They sit on their hands. They stay flat. They miss a move that they should be in because they're just afraid to lose. What do you say to the guys that are struggling with that?
I would say, don't worry about it. Well, first of all, there's always going to be another trade, but it's very hard to tell someone that in lifetime, because they don't believe that. There's a great book that I promote. It's called This.
Okay.
By Professor Stephen Peters. Everybody should read it. Okay. It's The Inner Chimp. And if you read that book, it's a great explanation of the roots of fear of missing out. But what I would say to someone is, if you feel the need you need to take a trade, or if you really want to press that button, then trade a small amount. And when you're 10 or 12 pips up, just bank it. Bank a small win. Do 2 or 3 of those in a row. You'll feel that feeling will go away. You'll feel more positive. It's more of an upward cycle of mindset. And then you can start to readdress what it is you're really doing. Those real setups. If you need to scratch that itch, then do a tiny trade size and scalp it. As soon as you see 5, 6, 7, 8 pips, bank the money, small little gain, 2 or 3 of those over 4 or 5 days, you're going to change your mindset. You're going to feel less panicky, less like you're missing out. And then you'll wake up and go, yeah, I don't need to do that. That doesn't really achieve much,
That's great
what I
advice.
would say.
So like smaller size keeps you from blowing yourself out, but the itch is still scratched, so you can still play and see how you're feeling and seeing the market. I love that. How many trades per day are you taking, or maybe per week are you taking, Tim?
Well, on average, there are 20 trading days in a month, and most of the time, I probably only take 1, maybe 2 trades a day.
Same thing for me.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, I've already said before, my capacity to stay focused for a long periods of time is that I know that that's one of my character traits. I've learned that through really hard experience. So I know that, I'm in the zone. I'm in a trade. I bank 20, 25 pips, close the thing and go off and do something else. I don't need to keep doing it, because you don't need to make 100 pips a day to make money at this business.
No.
There's a trade that I knew. He was about 25 years older than me when I started. So I bless him. I'm not even sure if he's around now, but he would say, look, if I see 10 pips, I'll take it. And that's it. I mean, he was trade sizing pretty heavily, but that's one of the great things about this business, is that you can do swing trading and make 2% on a 150 pip move, or you can make 2% on a 18 pip move. It just depends on how you feel emotionally and how you're able to cope with that level of risk.
And that's definitely something we're seeing guys in our group transitioning through right now, isn't it, James?
Yeah, 100%. I that's how I got actually with Austin. Austin had this video about 5 years ago.
I was just thinking about that. The 20 pips a day.
20 pips a day strategy. Like one person can make 100 grand on 20 pips, and another trader can make $100 on 20 pips. It all difference varies as soon as you get more money, right?
Yeah.
So Tim, speak to me a little bit. I know you've probably seen online about these prop firms and everything like that, but I know you're trading your own capital. What are your take on these prop firms? Have you ever taken a prop firm challenge? What are your thoughts on them?
I knew you were going to ask me that question. What are my thoughts on prop firms? I think they're great. I think the idea of them are great, but I think the intrinsic problem is that it doesn't matter how many monthly payments you make to keep your account open, subconsciously you still feel that it's not your money. And I think there are a lot of it's actually like trading your own account and live money. It's the guys who are really disciplined, who are super focused, that are going to make it work for them. The guys, like, you can trade, you can use $500 of your own money, or you can use 100 grand of someone else's, which probably isn't real money, but and if you don't have the mindset and the discipline to operate it, you're not going to work anyway.
Yeah.
So, my personal opinion, I mean, prop firms have been around for not very long, and I know there's a lot of bad press and stuff going on and everything else, but let's just put that to one side, because that's a conversation for social media and not for this. But I think just learning to, even if the the numbers on the screen are bigger than what you've really got in your own account, it's a good sort of mental practice process to go through trading larger lots, larger position sizes. And again, as long as you get the right firm and they actually do pay out, then why not do it? If you've got a good system, if you're really disciplined, and if you're a good trader, you're going to make money off them anyway. So it doesn't matter whether you're using their money, your own money, or your dad's money. It's it's gonna work.
That's so well
true.
said. And James, you made me think, when you asked that question, it made me think about, like, and also your answer, Tim, like, there's clearly fear in the industry right now, especially compared to when you started trading with the firms that you started with years ago, James. There was no fear in the industry then. It was very small. Now the industry has boomed. And Tim, you could speak on this, I'm sure. When new industries are formed like this, an industry within an industry, so to speak, a new model of business, there's going to be a lot of headaches. There's going to be bad actors. There's going to be drama, right? But what does that do over the long term? It weeds out the competition. It makes the best firms, the firms that are paying out, the ones that you can trust, it makes them adapt to survive. And that's how you can end up trusting them over the long term.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, cream always rises to the top. It's a bit of a corny phrase, but
it's true.
I think it's true. And in the same way that you see the same guys who I believe are solid, coaching and mentoring and doing it for the right reasons, and the trouble with the prop firm thing is it was too easy to set up. Everything is online, everything is automated, everything is AI, everything is this, everything is that. You can set up a prop firm in your bedroom, if you know how to. And and it's like trading itself. It's very easy to dump some money in a live account and jump in the markets and go for it. And that's where people just get railroaded and run over by a steam train. But you're right. I think when it really started kicking off, I mean, there were deals coming out all over the place. Some of the members in the Trade for Freedom, they were banking some serious money, trading massive accounts, and then some of those were taken away because of the industry collapse. And I said, look, I never said I told you so, but I did see the business just skyrocket like this, and I thought, this is unregulated. Something's gonna happen, because you can't keep doing all these payouts. And it's had it. It's crashed. It's burned a little bit, but I think it'll still survive. I think it'll just change a little bit.
It'll change.
I think it becomes more regulated. And like trading in itself, if you treat it like a business, and if you're just professional about it and try and promote the right thing, which is to traders, which is, we're not in it for the short term. You're not going to be a millionaire in 6 weeks. You're in it for the long game. James often posts it and says it, building wealth is a long-term thing. And, most people
wise beyond his years, isn't he? Sometimes.
Yeah, I'm bold. That's why I'm bold.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah. See, Austin, this is where you're in the wrong place. You've got too much hair.
That's definitely, it's blocking my new information from coming in. With regards, last question on the prop firms, Tim.
Yeah.
When you look at it from the outside in, and you talk to some of the coaching clients too that you're speaking with, do you feel like the best thing for the guys that want to take advantage of that is to take the profits that you make and fund your own personal capital and be ready to trade your own money? That's the end goal.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the things you need as a trader is you need a strategy, you need the time, and you need money. Because without funding, you've got nothing to make profits on. Which is also why you need to risk manage really well. Because if you've got an account and you blow 50%, you've got to make 100% to get back to break even.
Bingo.
And people think, oh, that's okay, I'll get it back. But I'll tell you what, you can lose 50% like that, but to make 100% will take you 10 times as long.
Yep.
So yeah.
So your own capital is the end goal, and then preserving that capital. And I think like the gist of that video, James, if you remember, was like, hey, everybody that wants to be a trader, and I was a new trader saying this to everybody, I was like, listen to the guys like Tim that are more experienced. What do they say? Exactly what he just said. You need experience, you need capital, you need the skill. So none of those things come quickly. Even if you're blessed with good people in your life to maybe give you some capital, skills and experience, they don't come fast.
Yeah. And also the other thing, which is, which is something which a lot of people don't talk about, is it's the whole trading psychology. I talk to guys I coach about this all the time. You blow an account and you can replenish the money, but to be able to rebuild your trading psychology, which has been damaged, takes a lot longer than it does to put some money back into a bank account. And so when I'm coaching guys, I always say to them, look for the best setups. Why put yourself through this? And set stop losses. If you're uncomfortable with something, kill the trade and walk away. You're not going to lose anything. No one's going to judge you. No one's say anything. The only thing that's judging you is yourself. So if you can just learn to not be so hard on yourself and just relax and just think, okay, this is a game. I'm learning to play the game, and I've got to keep my chips in my pocket. Okay, I'm not just going to throw them around the room. And I think if you just spot on. You just work on that basis, and it really does take care of itself. But you have to be consistent. If you're consistent with everything, it's like loads of things in life, isn't it? It's like friendship. I've got loads of really close friends, and sometimes when they're going through some hard times and things like that, I'm there for them. I pick up the phone. You're consistent as a friend, and that gives you longevity. So why not do the same in trading?
100%. You keep mentioning the word professional, and it's a buzzword of like, treat your trading like a professional. How does one do that? What do the characteristics look like? What do the routines look like? Let's chop into this for a minute here. Tell us, what does a professional trader do or look like, in your opinion, Tim?
First of all, you've got to show up every day. Okay. No excuses, unless you've got some serious issues. But yeah, show up every day and don't make too many plans. Just, have your trade plan, follow your process, and just be honest with yourself. And for me as a coach, if somebody sends me a message, I will reply to them straight away. If I say I want to do a meeting on the Monday, I will make it happen. And you just be there. You be there for yourself. You be there for if you're coaching people, you be there for them. All the members in Trade for Freedom, they can message me at any time. I'm constantly doing emails and screenshots and that, like the video I sent James last week. I'm doing loads of those all the time, because if you're saying that you want to help people, then you've actually got to do it. And in the same way that if you're going to be a trader, then you've got to do it. So you turn up. You treat it like a business. To be honest with you, this all sounds great, me saying this, doesn't it? Like, I sound amazing. But for years, I didn't do that. I'd trade on Monday and a Wednesday, and if I wasn't hungover on a Friday, I might jump in and have a look and get excited about non-farm payroll, because that's the only time of the month you'll ever make any money. But that's actually not the case, that you realize, So, and then you think, well, actually, I enjoy this, and I want to make it work for me. So I'm going to turn up and do it right. I think this is where James is a great example, because, and I think it comes from your professional sport background, because your sense of discipline that comes across on your posts and how you talk and how you speak is frightening. I think it's amazing, So I think anyone who's following you, I think they're only going to benefit from it, But I think, like you, Austin, you set up your business and you're there for people and you're showing them hook, line, and sinker, all the cracks and the good bits and the low bits, and that's what people want to see.
You know what's funny about that is when I posted a video yesterday of me showing a loss that I took, I get so much positive feedback on my losses. Like, thank you for being transparent. Thank you for not being like these other internet fake traders. Like those. Like taking accountability and ownership for all of the things that you do, like you're saying, is part of being a professional, and then gaining the respect of other people as seeing you as a professional, like how you see James. So I think that was spot on. If you had to distill it down to just one characteristic that defines a successful trader, could you do it? Could you pick one that is more important than anything else?
You got some good questions, haven't you?
I try. I'll let you think. James, do you have a word or a phrase, one thing, especially since you've been coaching with guys that don't trade the same thing that you do now, James, because you're coaching guys that are trading futures and you're trading Forex. What is the one characteristic or the one? I got a good answer. I can share a good one. You got one? You got one, Tim? All right, go ahead. Tim first, then you go, James.
Yeah.
Determination.
Oh, that's a good one. Nobody has said that one recently in a while. That's a good one. Why? Why do you say determination?
Because, okay, really quick story. Okay. I won't go on too long, but
don't keep it quick. If it's a good story, keep it good.
Okay. Many years ago, I decided that I told all my friends I was going to cycle around the world. And and we're sitting in the pub one day and they go, well, Tim, you're mad, you're crazy. And then another friend said, well, you don't have a bike. I said, look, those are minor details. Okay. So I got some funds, I got a bicycle, and off I went. And I cycled through Holland, Germany, the length of Denmark, across Sweden, got to the Russian border. I was cycling solo for about 3-4 months in September. So we're not talking summer, And I was on my own, and there was. I remember one particular day, it was absolutely freezing. The chain of my bicycle broke. I was on the side of the road, and I was fixing the bike, and it was so cold my fingers didn't work. And it was one of those moments where I've come close to tears. But then I realized, that the only way I'm going to get out of this is me, because there's no one here to help me. So I've got to fix this, and I've got to keep going. And there are many things like that in my life. I've done some pretty crazy things, and I've set up businesses and I've run businesses and everything else. And determination is something which you definitely have to have, because that will get you through any breakages, any crossroads, any dips in whatever it is. Because when you've got determination, you decide where you want to be. I want to be there, and then you break it back down into manageable steps, and then you start, and that's where you go. Because determination and goal, combine those two together, you're invincible.
I love that. Yeah, I love that.
That's that's very similar to what I had in mind. Mine maybe a different word. So I had a word, and I'm still thinking. I like talking to Tim. He's got a lot of knowledge as well, and I appreciate the kind words as well, Tim. But it's great. I love talking to people that have a lot more experience than me, because I'm still young. I'm 25 at the moment, and I've got a lot to learn. If I want to be around when I'm 50 still trading like you, Tim, I need to learn from guys like you. But the word that I had is resiliency, or never giving up. Resiliency, right? Because there's going to be lots of times, I've already had it in my career where you're going to go through losing patches and losing spells, and you got to, I think trading is a lot different to other businesses, where you can actually see the P&L in front of your eyes every single day. It's not like maybe a business that you're running, you're not actually seeing the profit and loss statement at the end of each day.
True.
So it's different mentally like that, but also you're the only person that is actually responsible for your business, right? So Austin can help me, Tim can help me, Tom can help me, Evan can help me, but I got to help myself, and you got to keep on being resilient, and you got to push those buttons at the end of the day and get your mind right, but determination and resiliency. Yeah. What does your one?
Absolutely. And like when you do like a run of bad trades, or you go on tilt, and then you come out of the red mist and you sit back and you go, oh, great, I just lost 5%. And how did that happen? You forget the first 4 or 5 trades because you've forgotten them. And then you sit there and you start to beat yourself up, because you realize that you're the one who did it, which is why it goes back to what I was saying. It's about trading psychology is actually more valuable than the money in your broker account, because the trading psychology will keep you going in the right direction. And trading psychology and confidence, I think, is paramount to everything else, because you can, once you've got that, you can put as much money as you want in the pot, because you're able to manage it, and you're able to use your skills to make it work.
It keeps the gunpowder dry if your trading psychology is good. If your trading psychology, if you don't have the right experience, right, you end up letting one loss spill into 2 or 3. One mistake becomes 2 or 3. You can never just swallow the mistake, swallow the loss. But I think that's a lot of ego, and that traders come into this business with, especially like yourself, right? Like you have success from another area in life. It's easy to think, okay, I'm going to be successful at trading. Well, that's not always the case right away.
Yeah, absolutely. Ego is, Jesus, ego is everything. It can ruin so many things. When I was younger, I set up and ran a sales business in Ireland. I was only 21, and we were doing really well, but we were it was hardcore frontline selling, and I was full of this. I had loads of words,
Of course.
and some of my friends used to say, "God, Tim, you're really annoying at the moment." It's like, because I think my ego has just got so big. It was like, gee, But anyway, that's life.
It's a skill. Balancing ego is a skill. Like, because without the ego, you would never want more for yourself. You would never have drive. You would never have goals that you can attach to.
Absolutely.
That's yourself. That's your
Yeah.
ego. But then at the same time, it can bite you in the ass when you think, I'm successful at everything else that I do. Why am I struggling with this? This is annoying. And you're like putting a square into a round hole. You know what I mean?
It's those character traits that make traders do what they do. It makes people become traders. It's that it does attract. So you might argue it attracts the wrong character traits, but that might be another conversation. But I think what I've really enjoyed about, I'm off topic here slightly, but one of the things that I've really enjoyed about the last 15, 16 years is it's not been easy, and and every day is different, and every day I'm trying to do the same thing. I'm trying to be the best person in terms of the trading and the process and the mindset, and literally you never cure it, you never fix it, you never find that thing. And I think that's where people I think that's where people possibly get the wrong end of the stick. I buy this system and I just have to press a button. It's just not, that's just not what it is, because
unfortunately not.
Yeah, because the person pressing the button is also dealing with what's going on in here.
Yeah, 100%. My word, James, just for the reference, my word is self-regulation. I think everyone, and that I took that from a previous podcast guest, but that one I think is super important because it combines a lot of the determination and the resilience that you guys mentioned. But if you can't regulate yourself on the highs, just like on the lows, like a lot of what you've talked about, Tim, is like regulating yourself from talking to yourself negatively, from getting too egotistical. It's a self-regulation practice to control those emotional decisions that sometimes have no business in this trading, in this business. You know what I mean? You need to be making more logical decisions, not emotional decisions as a trader.
Yeah, and you say about you just said the phrase talking to yourself. I've just remembered it's actually something I ask the guys who I'm coaching. I say, I will walk them through my routine just so I reminding them the correct process, or the process that we should be following. So it's a reminder for them. And then I say to them, talk out loud while you're following the process, while you're analyzing the charts. And they go, what do you mean? So, well, okay. So talk out loud. You say to yourself, right, so sterling dollar gets up to R1 and I see this, I'm going to go do this. Or where is the bias today? And I'll open the dollar chart, I'll open the dollar yen chart, and I'm saying this all out loud. My family can hear me. They think I'm mad. But it works. It works because the voice inside your head is not being heard by your subconscious. If you speak it out loud, your subconscious is hearing the words, and it has a different effect on your mindset. That's what I've learned anyway.
I like that one.
100%. 100%. Do you find, I'm sorry, go ahead, James.
Sorry. No, you go. Sorry, I just want to ask this question. Tim, what in all the, so you obviously old and bored like me, right? So we've been through it all. What is one trait, or one, maybe not trait, but what are some tips to staying in the market for as long as you have been in it, right? So 15 plus years is obviously quite a long time. What is some attributes or some tips for someone like me and Austin, and maybe any of the listeners that are new into trading, that can keep us around for many, many years like you have?
When I was nearly 40, I wrote a list of goals of where I wanted to be after being a trader for 2 years. And I haven't got it with me, but it's on my computer somewhere. But you read it and it's hilarious. It's like, Tim, what planet are you on? So what I would say to people is well, first of all, ask yourself why you're trading. What is it you want to get out of it? Do you want to make money? Do you want a challenge? Are you finding a process that you can add to your already existing businesses or income? So what I mean by that is you need to have a plan. Okay. So your reasons for being a trader from the word go. Why am I doing this? Okay. And then you ask yourself, at what point where do I want to be in 10 years time, or 5 years time, or by the time I hit 50, and have a kind of a long-term plan. Now, having said that, I'm now going to say something which counteracts that. And that is, don't set goals, because not literal goals, because I used to try and do that. I used to turn up at the charts every day and go, right, my goal today is to make 50 pips. And I put myself under so much pressure, and I'd lose 25, walk away and cry. So actually what I'm doing is I'm just reiterating what I said before, which was turn up every day, follow the process, let the markets come to you, bank the profits in the way that you know how to, which fits your personality, and just keep doing it, and have a check every week, every month. And if you're doing it right, your curve is going to be fairly consistent, and you shouldn't have massive spikes and ups and downs. If you do, then fine, you'll probably be able to identify the reasons why. But if you want to stand it long term, understand why you're doing it, why you're doing this, and also enjoy it. I always said, whenever I've done something new or set up a business or whatever it might be, I've always said, my wife and I, we've set up a few things, and we've started projects, and we've done some crazy things, and we've always said, if I'm enjoying it, I'll keep doing it. If I stop enjoying it, I'll stop doing it. So make sure you enjoy this process, because you're going through a lot of hassle. You're putting a lot of energy in, early morning, stress, anxiety. You're trying to explain to your friends and family why you're trading, because everyone's got a skewed idea of what that is. So you've got to honestly enjoy it. If you enjoy it, you're going to be fine. You're going to be good at it anyway. So your end goal is going to probably take care of itself. But yeah, just keep going. Just keep going, and keep it real and have fun.
Love that.
I love that.
I love that. So
that's
Tim,
a really long answer, isn't it? Sorry.
Yeah, but it's a good, no, don't be sorry. Great answers. Your answers have been great. What, for everybody that wants to connect with you, Tim, tell us a little bit about your business on the trading education side and the coaching side of things. What are you guys doing over?
Okay, right now? So I started. Obviously, I've been on Twitter for a while, as you know, and we all share our trades and what we do and everything else. And I used to do that as well. This is sort of back in 2019, 2020 kind of time. And then I had a few people message me and say, I'm having a bit of trouble with this or that. Do you coach? And I just didn't really, I didn't really acknowledge that and go down that road initially. But I had 3 or 4 or 5 people ask me, and my wife Michelle said, "Look, just spend an hour on Skype with them, see what they've got to say." And we happened to be on holiday, because I used to live in Malta, and we were on holiday for my wife's birthday. And I am literally sitting by the pool with a beer in my hand on a Skype call. So every trader's dream, right?
Yep.
Anyway, so I had this hour's Skype call with the first guy, and just describing what I do and the strategy in essence. And it was an hour long, and I really enjoyed it. And the guy got loads out of it, went away, carried on and did really well. Then a few more people came along. So by the time I got to Christmas 2020, I coached on individually probably 20, 30 people. And over Christmas time, with a glass of red wine, I was sitting there thinking, and I just thought to myself, if I made this into a video course that maybe people want to watch that, and also if it's videoed and recorded, you can watch it 24/7, and you can watch it as many times as you want, etc., etc. And so that's what I did. I basically turned 1 hour's coaching into a 3-hour 3-part video course, which is the lion's share strategy, which is on the website. And that's primarily around day trading, the daily pivots, but I also have segments about risk management, how not to overtrade, some stories of my experiences, a couple of funny stories to keep it real. And it's gone really well. So that was the core thing of it. But that course was really for people who were already established as traders. Maybe they just wanted to trade differently or add a strategy to their already business. But it didn't cover when you start from scratch, And I started coaching some beginners. And in fact, one guy contacted me. He was very determined. He said, "No, I want you to coach me. I'm a beginner. I'm clueless. I've looked on YouTube. It's scary, and I want you to coach me." And he wasn't going to let it go. So I said, "Okay, let me go away." So I put together a plan, and he said, "Yeah, let's go for it." So I coached this guy from the beginning, and this was a 3-hour, 3 sessions with slideshows and me talking, etc., etc. And then again, the same process. I thought, if I turn that into a video course, maybe it might be useful, because it plugs the gap from 0 to that level for the daily charts, for the line share and everything else. And that's how it was born. So that's why those two courses are what they are. And they are actually designed to go together. It just depends on what you want to do. So yeah.
That makes sense. When you look around and you see other people doing what you're doing. I feel like one of the best things for traders that want to learn from guys like you that have so much experience is trading with that person. Like you sent that video to James. Now you've put this video course together. So as we're finishing up here today, I would love to have you come on our streaming platform, if you don't mind, with James once or twice. And I'd love to see how you guys can chop it up and talk about the pivot points and actually show people the levels. Because I think I have a course. We have a couple. They're great, but nothing beats trading like the way you learned, sitting down with somebody that had experience and chopping it up with it. Why are you doing this here? What are you seeing here when I'm not seeing it that way? So if you don't mind, Tim, I think our audience would love to have you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah,
that'd be fun.
Yeah, I think me and James could do a good job there, I reckon.
We'll call you the bald brothers.
Yes.
I'll let the cue balls.
Yeah, exactly. I'll let James reach out to you and you guys can set that up.
I'll go and buy some polish after this session.
Yeah, you guys polish up and be ready. But Tim, listen, this has been amazing. I really, really loved your answers. And I think that our audience is going to be just wanting more of you because I think your experience shines through in the way that you speak. So I think we're going to need you on ASFX TV. I think we're going to need a part 2 to this. So audience, listen, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit the comments. Let me know what you want us to ask Tim next time he comes on. If there's anything specific you want us to dive into, maybe we need to do more screen share and talk about the pivot points. Maybe we need to do more psychology. You guys let us know. But for now, we're going to put a pin in it. I'm going to leave it to James and Tim to set that up on ASFX TV because I think that'll be great. But Tim, I'm going to link your website down below, link your Twitter down below so everybody can connect with you and follow you. Right. This has been great again, man. I can't thank you enough. So for now, Tim, thank you. James, thank you as always. And to our audience, thank you very much. We really appreciate you guys. Make sure you're subscribed and we will see you in the next episode.